All right, so we're recording now. So hello and welcome to this latest Breaker community call. I'm G from the Breaker team. We've got Miguel from the Breaker team on with us as well. And then this community call is a very different, very special one. We're trying out something new this time. Instead of just having a call where members of the community get to ask questions to the Breaker team, instead they're going to be asking questions to one of the artists who's used both Tokit and is now distributing some of his films on the Breaker platform, and that is Javier Borrayo. So Javier, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
And you're joining us from Guatemala, right, Javier?
Yeah. I'm from Guatemala, and I live in Antigua, Guatemala. So, hi, everyone from the city surrounded by 3 volcanoes, one of them active. And you can hear it from here. Yeah, it's really crazy.
It's a little terrifying.
Yeah. Last time I was in Puerto Rico, one of them were like complaining a lot about something. And one of the Puerto Rican friends told the other one, like, dude, come on. This guy comes from a place of 3 volcanoes, one of them active. Come on. So, like, that's why they're like so calm and all the time. They say Guatemalans, we're very, calm. We don't speak much and all of that. Maybe because of that.
I think that's some good life advice to put things into perspective.
Right.
So we're already off to a good start on this call with some sage advice from Javier. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we really kick things off in earnest. For those of you who are a little bit newer to Zoom or maybe are joining us for the first time, please mute yourself unless you've got a question that you'll be asking. There's also a raise hand function if you're feeling like being especially digitally polite, but I don't think we'll have any reason to go to those lengths since it looks like we don't have a huge group right at the moment. But muting yourself does help us keep the conversation going, and then just unmute yourself when you want to jump in and ask a question. Typically how we do these things is we ask members of the community to submit some questions ahead of time so that we're able to kick things off, give a little bit of context. So I'm going to start with some of those pre-submitted questions now. We'll try not to spend too much time on these because we also do want to give those of you who are joining us now an opportunity to ask some questions to Javier live. But I think we might as well jump in with a few questions. I thought we might start with a little bit of scene setting. So there was one question that we got on Reddit it looks like the username has been redacted since, but their question was simply why. We're going to choose to interpret that as why Breaker. So I'm curious to hear from you, Javier. How did you find Breaker at the time we were SingularDTV, and why ultimately did you choose to use Tokit and then the Breaker app for distributing some of your work?
So a friend of mine told me about SingularDTV. I don't know how he found the website. This was a friend of mine that was very involved in blockchain technology and investing on Bitcoin and everything. And he told me about SingularDTV. And at the time I was like, okay, I clicked, I saw this diagram of how it worked, and I was like, come on, I don't even know what this is about. And then a year later, you guys were already very advanced on what you were doing. And I just did a course of blockchain online, and like, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It has a lot of potential. And now I can see how this is related to entertainment industry. So I went back to your website and was like, of course, now I get it. What do I need? You had everything already up, Tokit was running. We did an Indiegogo campaign. So I had basically everything ready for a campaign. I had to, rephrase it and rephrase my whole production idea. So I just did it. Like, I finished my course. I understand what blockchain was. I understand your model. And I was putting my campaign live like in 5 days. So that's how, understanding how blockchain worked, I understand your model, and I saw the value.
That's awesome. So did you know anything about blockchain or crypto before hearing about SingularDTV and then taking this course?
Just Bitcoin, you know. I guess that to a certain extent, Bitcoin was the same that blockchain for people, you know. It was like synonyms. If you talk about Bitcoin, you talk about blockchain. So I heard about Bitcoin a couple of years ago, but it was like nothing that I was interested in. Then I understood they're different things. And when I understood what blockchain was, then it's like, yeah, I want to go for this.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about Lose. That's your upcoming film that you tokenized and crowdfunded using using Tokit.
Yeah.
Our legal team has asked me to make a quick disclaimer, and that is that one of the reasons that you were able to use Tokit is that you are an artist who's based in Guatemala. You did not sell any tokens to any US-based residents.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Tokit is not available for US-based artists right at the moment until perhaps we see some reform in U.S. financial law. But until such a time, it's artists like Javier who are based internationally and who are conducting business internationally. But anyway, back to the Lose campaign. So what exactly were you doing with tokenization? What are your tokens for? What were you raising funds for?
So as I mentioned, you know, we did an Indiegogo. I always had the idea of making this movie with a very collaborative model. First of all, because the narrative form of the film and the subject being approached on the film is not something that any private company or government, even worse, would be interested to finance in my country. So the only way to do this was collaborating with local artists that felt compelled and engaged with the story. And that's how we were able to put together sort of a teaser of what the movie would be like. And so it started as a collaboration, and I wanted to keep it like a collaboration. The Indiegogo worked. It was the most successful Indiegogo campaign in Guatemala. I don't know if there. Yeah, it was great. It was very, very exciting to see, you know, $100, $25 coming in. We raised 4,500, which to Guatemala, it's the Indiegogo film project that has raised the most. And we were all pumped. We were like, yeah, we're gonna do this with $4,500. That's what we have. We are not interested to get more money in 5 years and make this film in 5 years. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. And then Tokit came, and it was like, this is even better because it's not just this philosophy of collaboration, but also that collaborators get something back. That's what I saw. That's what I understood very clearly. Like, I'm basically creating shares in a system that's trustless. You know, you don't have to trust anyone. It just works. So you create shares, you create a campaign, and you're not just telling people, help me, donate me some stuff. You're telling people, if you believe in me, buy a part. And whenever this is out, you're gonna get something back. So the way I see the tokens, the Lose tokens, are like shares, you know. And I do like to think about the tokens as like a share model. Whenever it's distributed, people are gonna get value from it.
And you also distributed some of the Lose tokens to your fellow cast and crew members, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool because for somebody who comes from the entertainment industry, tokens can be this interesting, new, much more efficient, even trustless, like you mentioned, way of getting people who worked on the film compensated if and when the film takes off.
Yeah. You know, Guatemala has it's very on Pampers. You know, it's a baby starting to walk. When you talk about film, there's no film industry as such. but there are great movies already happening, and there's great brains creating really, really compelling stories. But there's also this thing in which, you know, you would make a film because you love to do it, and you will not get anything back. That's awesome, but if you want to make a living out of that, that's just simply not sustainable for anyone. So in my mind, it was this idea that, you know, the people, first, because it was a collaboration, the people are putting a lot of their time, their creativity, their energy towards this project. Why not share with them tokens? You know, so the people receive their salary, and on top of that, a percentage of tokens, which the total amount were 10 million tokens. So proportional to what they received on salary, they also received tokens. And the idea behind this for me is, you know, if you're a gaffer and, you know, you worked on this cool project, you received your salary, and also you receive tokens, and for some reason lose, knock on wood, it's successful and generates a lot of money, the gaffer is also going to receive that money. So what's going to happen next? This gaffer is going to be more interested to work in projects that are tokenized than projects that are not. So
you get like a network effect of people wanting to work on tokenized projects.
Exactly. Also, I imagine there could be a lot of people that would hate me for doing this, you know, because we are so, you know, this idea of like a pyramid structure is so ingrained in every single thing we do every day that to even think about that the cameraman or, you know, the stunt artist or the Foley guy are going to get a value after the film is finished, it's just not, it breaks the paradigm, you know. It's so ingrained in our brains that, but for me, I don't see it like that. I think everyone, because I'm an artist, you know, all the artists involved should get value of what little piece that they put in this piece.
So literally everybody who worked on Lose has Lose tokens now?
I have to say that, well, for the shooting, there were a couple of people that were added to the original team. Some of them were there like for 2 days. So they received their salary. They were not even interested on the whole token thing. But there's 97% of the whole cast and crew have tokens.
Wow.
I have 15% of the tokens, being the writer, director, and everything. I really believe in this. So I believe that everyone should have a part.
I think that's fascinating and like a really interesting experiment unto itself. Like as somebody who's seen like what typical compensation deals look like for people who are participating in making a film, like what you're doing in trying to get everybody like profit participation in the success of your movie is completely unheard of in the US. So kudos to you for trying this new model. I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, and you know, something that I think about is, the US has already a very rigged or fixed way of producing entertainment content. And it would be really complicated to make this kind of changes in an industry that's already that has already been working in a certain way for so many years. But in countries like mine, it's like the perfect place, you know. There's almost nothing. Let's do it in a different way, and hopefully that will spread. So yeah, it's a very exciting process.
Well, I saw a couple of hands go up in the chat. So Hedony, if you wanted to jump in and ask a question.
Hello. I just some of you that you know me, and I just wanted to introduce myself to what's your name? That Luz.
Oh, my
Sorry.
name is Javier. My name is
That's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to meet you because actually I was trying to do the same, but not for myself, but for a studio in France.
Okay.
And actually, like many of your ideas, especially like paying the people with the token,
Yeah.
that's something that's very, very interesting that they also want to do. But I will react after about that. But I just wanted to react about the address since you are talking about the distribution of your token. I just wanted to mention that also on Etherscan, that at the moment SingularDTV own apparently 1.7 of the token.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 17%. And you sold 20% of the token during the crowd sale, correct?
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it means that basically you're the only one that really sponsored you on the movie. Like the biggest part is SingularDTV.
It was not SingularDTV. Well, first of all, thanks for your.
Yeah, no, I just like I wanted to react about that because I want like transparency about that. And
Yeah.
when you look at your wallet, you understand. Okay, that's SingularDTV gives you all the money. So can you, precise that very, very transparently about that? I would
Yeah.
appreciate.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, it was not SingularDTV, but someone involved in the SingularDTV project that believed in my project. So So I'm sorry. What's the question again?
No, so just to understand, because that's if you look at the wallet, you've got 26 address, and you said that the staff, most of them they own tokens, so that means that if you discount the address, that's not that many left. So just to relativize the success made on Tokit is it's more like an experience that's sponsored by SingularDTV than really like a crowdfund through Tokit. I guess that you got much more people that donate from Indigo than from Tokit, right?
Yeah. From Indiegogo we had like 85 people.
Yeah, that's great. And did
Yeah.
you give them token as well?
No, the Indiegogo people, when it comes time to this, because whenever the Indiegogo was out there, the offer was, you get money, you're going to get a copy of the film.
Uh-huh.
The model changed whenever the film will be released next year. My plan is to make an airdrop for them to be able to watch the movie 2 times or one. That has to be decided as well. But I'm gonna, give me I have their email addresses.
Very nice. So can you just go back to a precision about the distribution of your address? If you can explain me a bit more, and I'll just give you. I lower my end after that. Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's not an interruption. I'm here for that.
Thank you for the transparency.
Yeah. I have to say that this is all still, I think, in the moment of experimentation, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. So the Tokit campaign had a couple of contributors from Guatemala, because I had a talk in a meeting, like in a blockchain meeting, and from there I know that a couple of people bought. There's one that bought like number pi, 3.14, 15, 16 Ethereum of tokens. There's someone that, as you mentioned, has 15 or 17% of the 10 million loose tokens, which was the biggest contributor. So, you could say that it was a Tokit campaign that was not successful in the sense of having 200 people buying tokens from it. But it was a successful campaign in terms of getting the full Ethereum that we were asking for. So, you know, there's always like two sides of the things. And yeah, the great thing is that you were able to check it out and see which wallets and how many people are sharing loose tokens. And I think that's great, because that puts me in a position of, you know, I can't lie. I can't not be transparent. And if I start lying, then people's just not gonna trust in me and in the system. And it's, you know, it's more of the same. So people that hold loose tokens are the people that contributed to the campaign, and people that from the crew, basically crew and cast, and people that contributed to the campaign. And the people from the Indiegogo, I plan to make an airdrop and have them have access to the movie through Breaker for free, because that was the deal with them before.
Sure. And in the interest of full transparency, to your point, Claude, I can confirm that SingularDTV, at the time, now Breaker, was a participant in Javier's raise, because we were really excited by this interesting model that he was trying out in Guatemala, a place where there isn't really a big industry, which is sort of exciting, because in some ways he's able to experiment with things that you'd get a lot of resistance against doing in other places like the US, for example. And also because he did also do this more legacy style crowdfunding campaign. So we had the security of knowing that no matter what happened, he was going to make his movie, which I think was a comforting thing for us to know. It's nice to see the scrappy filmmakers doing that sort of thing. But I understand that you're doing something similar in France, I believe. So I certainly wish you the best of luck in doing so.
And you know, there's a well, first of all, I did not know that you could confirm like exactly, like, how do you know it's SingularDTV?
We've publicly revealed our wallet addresses. So for people like Claude, who've been in the community for a long time, we have sort of a similar process where when we're spending our ETH, our community is able to see it, and that helps keep us honest. I guess, cool. As Claude was saying.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, those were very exciting times, you know, having Singular very excited about the project and let's do this together and all of that. And like, you know, a year later, it's great for me to know that it was actually, you know, a SingularDTV thing, like supporting. That's awesome. We've talked a little bit about Lose already, so could you give us a bit of a synopsis of the film and let us know sort of approximately what release date you're thinking? So the film it's completed. I struggled a little bit with, well, not a little bit. It was scary, you know, because it was also my first experience working with crypto and all of that. So we raised the 80 Ethereum when it reached the 1,400, and then it started coming down and down and down. So to be able to produce, I had to you know, move stuff quick and do the best out of it. So at the end, I had a little not money that I needed and already had committed to. So like 3 weeks ago, I was able to finally pay the final version of the mix of the sound. So it's already there. So right now I can tell you that Lose is fully completed. Just can, you know, you can play and watch it, and it sounds great and it looks beautiful and everything. So it's ready. It's 100% ready. And right now I decided this whole year I was going to put it in international film festivals to release it next year. So it's going to be released on Breaker next year. And that's what I can tell you right now. Since it's a Guatemalan movie, I would really like it to be at least a couple of weeks in movie theaters here in Guatemala. Not for making any money, because you don't make any money with a Guatemalan film in Guatemalan theaters. The only way to make money is having it like a lot of time in lots of places. But because it's a Guatemalan film, I want to put it on theaters. and whatever revenue is generated from that, if such, put it on towards the token, and after that releasing it on Breaker.
Awesome. I saw Miguel's hand went up, so if Miguel, you wanted to jump in with a question.
Yes, I wanted to point out, perhaps people who are here are not asking it, but perhaps there's people that will be watching this call later on that will have the question. Javier, any particular reason why you want to showcase Luz in a film festival before you actually release it in Breaker itself?
I think, plainly the reason is I wanted to have some sort of international recognition, because that will make people click on it. And if people click on it and pay for it, then the value of the token will go up. If I just release it as that, I believe it's not going to have a boost from the beginning. And I think I'm interested, and the token holders would be interested too. A lot of people to watch this movie. And I think it will be something good for everyone, for the platform, for myself, and everyone that holds Luz tokens. It's just, the only reason is for it to have some sort of international recognition that creates a booyah, as we say in Guatemala. Like, people talk about it and, wow, I want to watch it, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a pretty typical film release strategy that you use, festival buzz or other sort of event buzz, in order to ultimately drive people to, you know, go see the movie if it's in theaters, or purchase it on demand when it hits the internet.
Right.
Okay. I got another question that perhaps people who are gonna be watching the call later on will have. You mentioned that revenue that you get from releasing the film or on theaters, that revenue will be pushed onto tokens, so it gets pushed to the tokens.
Yeah.
As of right now, one of the challenges that we've confronted is the fact that traditional cinemas, traditional theaters have their own standard ways. I'm not going to use the word that I was going for. Standard ways that they tend to use, and they're not looking into actually using blockchain technology or any sort of plug-in with another blockchain, a company that uses smart contracts. So all the revenue gets converted from fiat to crypto and then gets pushed into your token for revenue. So how do you plan on doing this? How do you plan on achieving this and keeping things transparent? Not trying to put you on the spot. I know it's a tough question.
No. Putting my hands in the mud, you know, for me, ideally, what would have to happen is have a portal in which, you know, if you still sign a contract with someone that's off chain, which would be the case, for example, if I sign a contract with a local theater to have the movie there for 2 weeks. For me, the ideal thing would be that contract has a part that says the payment generated by the revenue of this film will go to this account. This account is a portal in which the theater would have to pay there, and that will go straight to the token. But I think we're kind of far from that yet. So what would have to happen is I would have my production company will receive the payment, and I'll make it as transparent as I could. Maybe a video call, you know, video showing, transferring money here, you know, putting your hands on the mud for now. Eventually, I would hope that this happens, and I think to a certain extent, it's necessary. I went through the idea of, you know, what happens if, you know, a mainstream distribution platform is interested on my film right now. Would I rather put it there than Breaker? And that made me question, you know, what do I believe in? Which platform do I prefer, ideally, versus which one will generate more money in 1 year? It's hard to say. It's hard to say because everything right now is starting with Breaker, and everything it's so changing every month on the platforms available. You know, at some point I thought, you know, I might sign a contract with another platform for 2 years with the movie, and whatever they pay, I will put it towards the token, so that people having tokens can still see the value and still believe in this. And I think that's very, very important. Someone has to put the hands on the mud, and someone has to do it in as transparent as possible, so that people still believe on this, which I believe. I don't know if that makes sense. I kind of rambled a little bit.
No, you're good. You're good. Thank you. Perfect. And that's exactly right.
And you know, in Guatemala, it's very, very rudimentary. You know, there's major movie theaters that bring Avengers, that bring the blockbuster Hollywood blockbusters. That's a very rigged ring to get in and play with the big guys. It's mostly like, who do you know? Who do you know that's gonna be willing to put your film there for a week or for 2 days, whatever? And mostly in Guatemala, what you do with your film, and it happens all the time, is rudimentary. You know, you put your hands in the mud. You know, you travel through the country with a screen, projector, sound system, and show your movie and charge for it. And if that's the case with Luz, then it would have to be that way. You know, I hope we had already an app here that I could be in the entrance. You know, people coming, pay here, and I don't even touch the money. It goes through to crypto, and it goes to the token. But we're not there, so I'll have to put my hands in the mud, and I'll be happy to do that. For people that hold the tokens, you know, for the gaffer from my movie that received tokens, for me to be able to tell him, dude, we've been touring this movie for 6 months, and check your wallet. Oh my God, I have that. You know, that's something that's very utopical, but I want to believe in it.
I think it's not that far-fetched, honestly.
Okay.
Like, well, maybe the QR code scanning on the phone is a little bit futuristic. Probably not that far off, but a little bit futuristic.
Right.
The other bit sounds very doable to me.
But man, I write sci-fi, so why not? You know, why not think about that?
So
I do have to say that your way of thinking, it's what actually has made you, the band U2 and Red Hot Chili Peppers successful. The fact that no matter what any of them do separately, all goes into one pot of money and gets equally divided among all members of the band. Yeah. And the fact that what you're doing with the team, it's great. It reminds me even of the movie The Bowfinger with Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin. It's a early 2000s movie, and he actually did that. He created a studio, and he started sharing the revenue of all the movies that they would direct and produce with the talent and everyone in the studio. So it was great. I believe that you have a very decentralized spirit. And yes, rainbowjaw is joining us for the first time, and he has a question.
Sure.
Hey, what's up? I don't know if it's the first time, but it's the first time I maybe showed my face and asked a question. Javier, I'm just curious. So it sounds like you haven't actually pushed any funds through to the smart contract. Is that true? You have not?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I'm just curious how your crew and all the people involved feel about, you just receive Ether at this time, right? Or I mean, like it gets converted into ETH, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm just curious about. I think for me, like, I'm a filmmaker, by the way. And I'm very curious about using this platform in a similar sort of way. And I think that the biggest barrier for me, I live in the U.S., but the biggest barrier for me, so I don't even know if I'd really be able to do it or what, but convincing people to receive payment in ETH, even though, like, I think it's a great idea. Like, I think that it would be probably a good idea, especially if you're coming out with this film right now and you start making revenue right now. I think it'd be a great time to be receiving that. But like, I think convincing a lot of people who have no, like, you know, maybe they're interested in it, but they've like heard about like, you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum and just like going up and down and people losing crazy amounts of money. Like, I think that would give people pause for that, at least in my situation. And I'm just curious how people on your crew feel about that.
Right. Okay. So I saw the value on the blockchain, and I saw the value beyond the fact that at that time Ethereum was $1,400 each. I see the value of decentralization and trustless honesty in a system. For that reason, I thought, you know what? I'm going to sit down with these guys, talk to them about blockchain, talk to them about how we're getting the money, and, you know, give them a class of how this works. Hopefully they'll see the value, and I offer them, I can pay, and I did, you know, I sit down, we had it on video. Whenever there's a making of, you're going to see it there, and I was a bit chubbier, so hope you recognize me. But we, you know, we sit down with their, like, we had a meeting, cast crew at that time, and, you know, I told them, this is what's happening, and I give you the option. I can pay you on Ether, I can pay you cash dollars or cash local currency, and on top of that, you're going to receive tokens. So your salary is safe, you know, you can choose how you want it. And on top of that, you're going to get tokens. And if you don't want the tokens, that's fine, but they're there, they're for you, they're reserved. So that, and, you know, some of them were like, yeah, I want the Ether. Of course I want it. And then at the time it was time to pay them, they're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe not. Like one of the main actresses, and some of them, you know, a lot of them told me like, you know, I want 60% dollar cash, 40% Ethereum. And I was like, yeah, cool. You choose, it's your money. And like one of the main actresses had chosen, I think 60 and 40. And she said, no, you know what? I'd rather get all my cash. That's fine, you know, and we did it, which was a struggle because the money was, you know, the value was going up and down. I did not know that was going to happen. And at the end, I was like, okay. And my producer was like, Javier, why did you commit it to that, dude? you're fucking up our budget. I'm like, I committed to, we have to, you know, and kind of Jon Snow situation, you know, you have to, I committed, I had to be truthful to my crew. And that's how I handled it. And one of the actresses got paid 50-50, you know, and I sent her Ether, and her, what I did was fix the amount of Ether, you know. At the time they signed, it was a certain price, and this is the Ether you're gonna get. Are you conscious of what I'm telling you? Yeah. And this is your cash. So one of the actresses got paid Ether and cash, and like a month later, she was scared, and I understand that, you know, Ethereum was going down and down, and her $500 were already 200. And she called me one day like, oh, dude, I want to sell my Ethereum. And I felt bad. And I told her, you know what? I'm going to buy it the price I gave it to you. So I put up my money and she got her money. So all of this, I try to work it out in a way that it didn't feel painful for them. Because if that will affect the way they perceive this, because the way that I mishandled this in the beginning, because I was experimenting, I was trying. But I guess what I would tell you is, if you see the value in it as a filmmaker and you want to pass on this information to your crew or cast or the people you work with, be transparent with the information, give them options, and let them choose in a way that they don't have to believe you, but you present the information to them. So yeah, it might happen, you know, that in the end you're like, yeah, this is cool, I don't want to go through that hassle. I'll check this 5 years later and see how it goes. or you might do something like I did. I believe in this and I'll go for it, see what it happens. That's what I would have to say. Yeah.
So in giving people tokens, I guess I maybe missed the first part of it as far as like how you split that up with the crew, but you might still be holding some tokens for some people who aren't, like, they don't have an Ethereum address, or did you like give everybody like a cold wallet or something?
Yeah, I mentored everyone to open their wallets, and I print this. Don't lose your keys. You might forget what a key is 5 years from now, so don't lose this print paper. And I transfer it to them. The only one I'm missing to transfer the loose tokens is the main actress, which is a child. She's 10 years old, and I'm in communication with the mom and everything. They have like a weird schedule. I've had a weird schedule, but we're gonna meet someday and I'll do the same thing. But I mentor them. This is your wallet. Because honestly, if you don't see the value in something right now, it's very hard for some people to see it happening later. So I'm just making sure that they have their wallet. Some of them really understand what blockchain and all of that is, but some of them don't. And I just made sure, they have their keys printed, take care of this, doesn't matter what. And hopefully, in 5 years, if that has value, they're going to be like, oh, where are my keys? And they're going to start engaging more with that. But yeah, answering to your question, I mentored them and helped them open their wallets, and I transfer the tokens.
How long did it take to teach everybody out what a wallet is and get them started?
We met before actually withdrawing the ETH. And I talked to them for 3 hours, 4 hours. And once the production was completed and we started paying everyone, I would go to the director assistant house and chill, open the wallet, transfer. So yeah, the conversation with the crew was 4 hours, and then going with every one of them and opening the wallet. So it's not it doesn't take a lot of time.
So not crazy time consuming.
No. And I was very involved, but really I feel like more a production work. So, how long does it take to meet with your actor and pay him or her? Kind of the same thing.
Very interesting. Thanks, rainbowjaw, for the question. And I'd add for those of you who are following along on your computers, we've got an interesting chat. Rick, who's been silently observing, but he's been offering his own advice for how you would manage your ETH to US dollar treasury section. I would, of course, encourage everybody to do their own research before figuring out what practices you're best comfortable with. But it looks like even on this call, we've got some interesting crowdsourced wisdom for how to approach these things. Javier's approach is really interesting with educating the whole cast and crew as to how this works, and then working very, very kindly and generously, I'd add, working with a member of the cast who is maybe having some remorse at not selling her ETH sooner if she did really want fiat currency. But Rick's got some interesting workaround suggestions for people like yourself, rainbowjaw, who might be interested in doing this in the future. I'd also like to add a little bit of clarity to my earlier legal disclaimer, in that when we were discussing Javier doing a crowdfunding raise via tokit, that's something that would unfortunately not be available to you, rainbowjaw, as somebody who's an artist based in the US. But you could certainly do a traditional crowdfunding raise, also like Javier did with Indiegogo or some other source. And you could still use tokenization in order to deliver your royalty payments to your casting crew. That's just using technology to automate a very well-known, respectable process, not something that is kind of like crypto fundraising is something that maybe raises eyebrows among US regulators, but something like delivering residual payments in a more timely way just sounds like a good idea to any business person. But we're starting to get towards the end here. I did want to add one other question that we had received ahead of time. This one, I'm going to provide a little bit of context for you, Javier, because it was submitted by Cradle to Cradle, aka Snarfy, who's a little inside baseball for you. He's become sort of a meme in our community thanks to a few community calls ago.
Avatar. He's the avatar. Snarfy's girlfriend. Avatar.
So Snarfy's girlfriend is his original question that started this all off was like, how do you get my girlfriend who's not at all blockchain savvy interested in these sort of things? Mm-hmm. And so like the Snarfy's girlfriend test has been a lot of his questions regarding like mainstream user adoption and stuff like that. So I think that's the context for his question, which is a somewhat lengthy one. But ultimately what he's asking about is, what are your thoughts on different models for monetizing content? So what's your opinion about pay to watch instead of subscription? What do you think about the concept that people are able to choose how they pay for a piece of content, as in choosing between pay to watch, advertising, and then watch for free, and then sort of tip the artist at the end of the film? So if you could just sort of speak to, I guess, however you'd like to tackle this question, like what's worked for you as an artist trying to monetize your work in the past? What do you think is an interesting industry trend?
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of Andy Warhol and Kanye West. It's not what you sell, it's how you sell it. And, what story do you want to put behind your payment method? And the nature of what you're selling as well. So I think it's a great thing. The more options you have, I don't see anything wrong with that. But how do you sell it, and what value would that add to what you're doing? Because right now I feel like people is used to subscriptions. I use iMusic, and it doesn't bother me to pay $6 a month to play any music. It's a subscription. If you tell me I have to pay per album, that's still a weird idea. I'm not saying I don't like it. It makes sense because I'm an artist and I see the value on that. Artists get nothing from iMusic if they get 1 million plays. But as a user, I see that it's still like, why would I do that? So it's how do you sell it? What are you gonna add? If you're telling people pay for my album instead of a subscription in which you will hear my album and the rest. So I think it's more of going short, I think it's great to have options for the users. Some of the options might be more appealing to the artist, and those not necessarily appealing for the consumer. So as creators and artists, how do we play this around? We already have the tool, it's Breaker, it's there, but how do we sit in front of the other and have a cup of coffee and say, you pay for my album and don't pay a subscription? And, going from the artistic standpoint, I guess that's what I would have to say to that.
So would you consider, like with any given film or creative project of yours, would you consider like maybe even a combination of business models to monetize it?
Yeah.
Or does it vary project by project? Is there like one that you're definitely more comfortable with as an artist and somebody who's making a living off of your art?
Mm-hmm. It's really, it's a tricky question because we're subconsciously so rigged to the actual system that honestly, the one that sounds appealing to me right now is leave my tokens as revenue collection system. So you're going to pay with Ether. And my token is just going to collect the revenue. That's the most appealing one for me right now. But there might be, and it has been proven that there might be stuff that I don't see coming yet that could be done with the loose token. And that's where I think we have to go. I think that's where we have to go. 10 years ago, or I don't know, 15 years ago, it was not possible to have an app on your phone and play music by paying monthly with your credit card. You know, you had to go to a shop, get a CD player, and get full of CDs. So there's thousands of things coming ahead with the blockchain, and now that Breaker is out, that I might not be able to see yet. And I'm trying really hard to see beyond. Like how can we make things different? You know, how can we use this technology in a way that's attractive and that people say, like, get to the point in which people say, why should I pay a subscription for all this music when I can ? You know?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, it's an interesting tension between these models that are great for consumers but awful for artists, and then models that are good for artists but seem less attractive by comparison to consumers. So I don't know that there's any good answer to the question necessarily. I think other than just giving both artists and consumers the way to sort of navigate that relationship.
Maybe, can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've been very close to coffee projects lately. So my girlfriend works in a coffee project that works with women producers. And it's very, very like mind-blowing, or like it's crazy that producers don't get anything, really. The value chain of coffee, from production to the coffee cup, it's so full of intermediaries that the cup of coffee that you have, you're paying enslaving, you're paying nothing to the producer that actually cuts the coffee and works the coffee for a year and all of that. And that's the way it's rigged. You know, that's the way it is right now. And people don't question where my great coffee is coming from, and you enjoy it and you drink it, and that's it. And you know, the approach of this company that my girlfriend is working on is, you know, let's cut the intermediaries and get you closer to the producer. But honestly, what's up with that? You know, I would just want my cup of coffee. So I think the trick there is, how do you tell this person that's drinking the coffee that there's a story behind it, and you're very close to the story? So I think that the missing block here is, it's very in the line of that, like the cup of coffee, you know? You want to consume my music, get closer to my story, get closer. That's gonna be more attractive. Is the story that you tell the people that changes the way that they do things. So if we're able to change that paradigm, you know, what story are we gonna tell people? Are they listening to music, or are they listening to the effort and the creativity and that the artist puts into it? Because right now I feel more like we're consuming content, consuming music. We're not, you know, yeah, I see the picture of the artist on the portrait, that's cool, but I'm not close to the story of the artist. So breaking that wheel of just consuming and having people consume stories, is not consume content, not just drink your cup of coffee. See the face of the person that produced this coffee. Send her a tip, because now you see the value, and your cup of coffee is great. It's better now. It's like the music. It's like a movie, you know. It's not just content that I'm playing. I'm buying this story.
I think we should start tipping in DAI, if you heard about the stablecoin.
What's that?
So regarding raising funds, paying royalties, right? We mentioned that Ether, of course, it's very volatile, where it goes up or goes down, right? So a way to solve this issue and still be in the crypto land, we could probably start using stable cryptocurrencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like DAI from MakerDAO. Full disclosure, I work at MakerDAO now, so that's why I'm trying to bring this up. So
someone's chilling, someone's
something like that. But I think it will be very interesting to have that integrated, of course, on Tokit and Breaker to pay for content. Because it's automated, it's easy, it's stable, right? So you don't need to think about fluctuations, stuff like that.
Right.
And you basically enrich the ecosystem just by using native currencies, right? Which are stable, of course.
Yeah.
So thoughts about stable coins, Javier?
What's that?
Thoughts about stable coins? We're putting you on the spot. Most of our artists, we don't throw all of the crypto terms at them, but I think you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. They put us closer to the blockchain technology than to creating profit. Like waiting for the Lambo and the moon. And I think it will be a great thing to put together there. What I'm thinking right now is Zach one day. I think it was a video. He was talking about the meetings they have on Breaker. He's like, it's 40 people. It's because there's so many things involved in this. The artists that don't think as financials, like finance people usually. You have the finance, entertainment, production. There's so many aspects related to this that it's interesting. Just because of the comment that you just made. It's like, yeah, I was not even thinking about the stable coins when I was talking, but that's what triggered. And it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'd love to make a comment on that if I could.
Yeah.
That's actually part of why I asked the question. I think that having DAI on Breaker would be so great. I think it brings it that much closer to like people not knowing that they're even using crypto, which I think is so important. I don't we might nerd out on all this stuff, like, because we like understand the power behind it, but like people don't give a shit. People don't care. Yeah. Like they just like want to get paid and have it not to worry about it. Like people don't even want to download another app. Like you're going to make me download Venmo right now, or like that kind of stuff. Like people get annoyed by that, but they'll do it. So if it's like as simple as like downloading an app, like, I just received some DAI. I like download this app that like, if we can get there, then that would be like, you'd be able to convince people much more easily, I think.
I'm also on a personal level, I'm a fan of MakerDAO and DAI. There's certainly certain complexities to integrating a stable coin into everything that we're doing, but it is something that we would like to ultimately do. And so for members of the community like yourself who are joining us, I would, just keep reminding us of it every now and then. That way we can relay it to the rest of the team and maybe move it a little bit higher up the priority list.
Yeah.
The only last thing I wanted to say, we were talking about like different types of things to do with your tokens. Like, I think also getting people ways to like get people involved, like as like a positive feedback on you. I mean, you were talking about the coffee, the coffee stuff, and like if people are invested, like literally, then they'll not only share it with their friends, but they'll be more likely to share it and get excited about like new stuff that you as an artist are working on. So I think like if like you can even give people like one token when they like rent your movie, like I don't know what the legal implications are for something like that, but like if you can give people like a share, like here's a share for just renting the movie, and they get to like I don't know, it incentivizes like early people to search out for new movies, you know, like it incentivizes people to like go look for new content that they like, that they'll, you know, anyway, it's just a thought.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one idea that I had, because I do want to make a release in Guatemala, like a premiere event. And the way I see this event happening is like a technological event, you know, in which, you know, of course, everyone's invited, the media and everything. And before the release, the premiere of like showing the screening, you know, talking about blockchain, you know, it's me in 10 minutes, I'll tell you what blockchain is, how we got the funds, how this happened. And now there's a huge like QR. And today, if you QR that, you're gonna receive tokens, like loose tokens today. What can you do with that token? You can buy a pizza, you can get a beer, and watch the movie on Breaker when it's released. So the whole purpose of this is like making an event that's interactive and that people get to firsthand use tokens. You know, download a wallet, get your token, use it today, and then watch the movie. You know, little things that make people, as you were saying, you know, they puts them closer to what is this? You know, I don't want to understand what crypto is. Yeah, the guy talked about blockchain and all of that. Some of them might be interested, but most of them are going to be like, oh, cool. Just get the token and get a pizza. I'm going to do that. I want a free pizza. I want a free beer. I'll download it and use it. And without knowing, you already used crypto. And, you know, like little by little, make people get in contact with it and get something from it. So I just wanted to share that idea of how I see the premiere of this happening.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool vision. That's something that that maybe if you had said it like a year ago would have sounded really far off. But then again, I've been to a couple of crypto events where the really like amazing leaps that people have made with burner wallets specifically would probably make something like that a lot more doable sometime in the very near future, even perhaps even already today.
Right.
So I hate to cut us off, but we are running over time. It's been a really awesome conversation. Does anybody have is there any last question that anybody wants to ask before we wrap up for today? Oh, there's a link to a burner wallet in the chat. We'll be sure to put this in the YouTube description when we get it up on YouTube for anybody who wants to try it out. Nice. Well, if there's no final questions, then I'll ask one. This one's slightly self-serving, but Javier, I understand that you're watching films on Breaker. Is there any that's your favorite, and you can't say any of your own films that are already up on the app?
Yeah, mines are not my favorite. I'm not Kanye West. No, I'm joking. I love Finding Oscar, because of course it's related to Guatemala and the history of it. But it's beautifully made. It's a Spielberg executive production thing. So that's definitely, like, I was excited when it was out. It was my first movie I watched paying ether. So that one, I would say, without thinking much, that's my favorite.
Cool. Well, thank you. So you guys heard it. If you're looking for something to watch this weekend, you can check out Finding Oscar on Breaker. You can, of course, check out Javier's work as well. Though he mentioned Luz is not up on Breaker yet, he does have a few of his projects up there now, including a couple of music videos, Guatemala by Baba Grease, and Ascendente Subconsciente. You and Miguel can roast me for butchering the Spanish pronunciation later.
That was actually pretty good, I gotta say.
Mm-hmm. As well, he's got a short documentary called CANTEL, A La Vida, which is a cool film about a community rallying against bureaucracy, capitalist exploitation, and really rallying around the cause of environmentalism. So if any of those things you're passionate about, I recommend checking out the film. I have to do a few more Breaker plugs before we conclude for today. So I just mentioned that if you're looking for something to listen to, Casey Pearl has just recently dropped her new album exclusively on Breaker for now. So Breaker's the place where you can listen to it first. Check it out. She's another really amazing artist who came through Tokit and is now using Breaker to distribute her work. And for anybody in the community who happens to be based on the West Coast of the USA, this weekend is the LA premiere of Perfect, a really frightening, fascinating, hypnotic sci-fi film that we're distributing theatrically right now, and then will be later available on video on demand on the Breaker app. So check that out if you're able to go see it in theaters. But otherwise, thank you all very much for participating in today's call. I think it's been a really fascinating discussion. We've covered everything from the state of the film industry in Guatemala to what Javier thinks of stablecoins. So I think we've done it all. We can certainly continue having this conversation on Discord, on Reddit. So please join our subreddit, our Discord. Our subreddit is We Are Breaker. Follow us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram. It's the same handles there. And hopefully we'll be hearing from you all soon and having another one of these. And so thank you very much finally to Javier. I'll let you get the last word in before we conclude today. Anything that you want to wrap up with?
No, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. I think these kind of things are very important, to make people see the value of what you guys are doing and get the artists closer to the people. And I hope that, whoever artists get to see this, don't be afraid. In numbers, I spent $100 for all this stuff that we'll be talking about. So it's not a scary investment that you're doing in something that you might see the value of, and you might get a lot of value through the years, because this is just starting. So don't be afraid of it. And that's it.
Cool. Try it out. Well, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Fridays. For everybody based in the US, have a nice long weekend. And we'll be chatting with everybody soon, I'm sure.
Cool. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Right.